Hello and welcome to episode 199 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your tame Foundry author, Drogan1701, and with me is the Jaffa warrior, Markhawkman.
Okay.
The Asgard scientist, DuncanIdaho.
Woo!
And the, poor schlub from Earth, Greendragoon.
Yay, I get to play myself in real life.
I'm not entirely sure about the Jaffa thing. I don't remember there ever being any Jaffa that were female, but whatever.
Oh yeah, there's this whole civilization. I've been rewatching some SG-1 recently, so that's what brought it to mind. But anyway, stepping away from old sci-fi and going to new sci-fi, obviously we got lots of movement towards the release of Age of Discovery, which of course we know now is coming on Tuesday, the 9th of October.
Doom. I mean, yay!
Well, a little bit of Doom because, of course, it presents a slight problem for our Foundry Challenge because we have been told that there will be a republish, an auto republish, which these may or may not result in some downtime. We've seen it where it goes very quick, and we've seen it where it doesn't. So, basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the deadline of the voting part of the challenge 4 days past whenever the Foundry is back and ready to be used. So, I mean, if that's right away, then fantastic. The 12th is still the deadline. And if it's not, then, 4 days after whenever it comes back is the deadline. So
that sounds good.
Yeah. But in any case, hopefully people are still playing. I have gotten some votes in, so hopefully there will be more. Lots more. Otherwise, not much to say about that other than keep playing and get me your votes as soon as you got them.
Yeah, I haven't finished playing all of them. I've played 5 of them and watched the Legion of Myth guys play one of the ones that I hadn't played myself yet. But that's only 6 so far, so yeah, I've got a ways to go.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of them this time.
Yeah.
I certainly was not expecting to get 18 entries, so.
I was thinking about 10.
Yeah. I'd call that a success, though.
Indeed.
I started playing them,
Yes.
and then I got sidetracked by the double XP weekend.
I don't get sidetracked by double XP weekends because all of my characters are max level. Or close enough to it that I don't really care.
Well,
I haven't utilized it to do a couple of ship traits.
Jorgen has been passing along some bad habits, and I'm up to like 19 characters.
Oh, that bad habit.
I'm starting to get up there.
Talk to me when you get over 50.
Yeah, I'm starting to get up there again with character number because I've still got the Delta, my Delta recruit for KDF that I just made to complete the last remaining objectives. Then I've got my Jem'Hadar, which I'm probably going to abandon because I'm really not getting into them, and I ended up picking up only one Jem'Hadar ship, which I can kind of pass on. Well, so we'll see. Just kind of keep him in the background, but yeah, that one just ended up. Though? Yeah, he's a Gamma recruit, so so there's still reason to keep him around and play him, but it's not one that I'm going to be investing in beyond what I've already done.
Well, I'll tell you this: the key to having a lot of alts is to not care if you don't play them for a while.
So that's where this guy is right now. Basically, he's entered this like the Sage 2 out because all the other ones I like to play. That's why I keep a low character number because they're all heavily invested in. So they're all capable of doing advanced content, elite content, and doing pretty well with that. So and now I'm starting to enter the phase where I'm starting I can let my TOS Fed kind of slide a little bit. I can let my Jem'Hadar slide a little bit, and then take up my
just go play them whenever you feel like.
Yeah, basically, but yeah, we did get some information about who will be initially be able to create for Discovery characters.
We did.
This may
yes.
not represent a final list because they are looking at evolving this over time. So, and in continuously improving the starting experience, because what they're really banking on for the Discovery starting faction is that it's basically the throughput for people who are now fans of Discovery but may not have been fans of other Star Trek series. So they're looking at developing these guys out more. But right now we'll start off with human, Vulcan, and alien. Yay!
That saves it for me.
Yeah, that was basically
otherwise
if it was human, Vulcan, and Dorian, I'm just like, oh god. I would literally just play the tutorial and then just play through the rest of my human Fed, who is already Discovery themed. And it's just like, alien, new character. Yay.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty excited that they included Alien Gen because
Yeah.
my Discovery character is an ad hoc Discovery Klingon.
Yeah. So we'll see what else they bring out for Alien Gen, because we did, as we were talking before the show, this is not intentional, definitely not intentional. Right now, the female aliens on the Triple server have access to a very work in progress Discovery Klingon base complexion skin, and it is terrifying. Like it's like they melted Saru. it's the eyes are in the wrong spot on the mapping. It's not hooked up right. So
Yeah. So it sounds like they're still in the stage of texture mapping, where they take 2D texture and
looks
apply it
like,
to the 3D model.
It looks like Greendragoon's managed to steal his new ship.
Yep.
Yes, and I'm
he
flying
stole
off
the
into the
ship.
sunset.
So let's talk about this ship then. This is the Malachowski class. This is going to be the starter ship for new Discovery era Feds, and you can actually buy it as a regular Fed just for 5,000 other things like you can any other Tier 0 ship.
Except the Pioneer.
The poor Pioneer. It gets no love at all.
Yeah, and this may
Do TOS Feds have the ability to buy that for dilithium?
maybe, but yeah, I mean, definitely not on standard Fed, which is kind of the situation we're in right now. So a little bit different, but yeah, this is a glorious ship.
Mm-hmm. I like it a lot. It to me shows a clear progression between the Discovery era and the Miranda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is a canon ship. It is a ship that appeared in the Battle of the Binary Stars. There were 2 of them.
Yeah, of course. There's something like 100 ships at that battle, so there's a whole lot of.
It's not quite 100. I think it's more like
8 or so
for Feds. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's
and maybe about 20 Klingons at least.
From the list I've seen in the Eagle Moss, it's about the same for Klingon. I mean, they repeated a bunch.
The Eagle Moss listing is incomplete, though.
No, but there's another listing that also includes ships they're working on. Mm-hmm. So that is a little bit more complete, and that did provide a comparable number of Klingon ships versus Fed. But at a certain point, they do start sort of recycling the same parts. So one of the Eagle Moss Klingon ships is basically like another one, but it actually has a sort of central section. Another one is basically just the 2 pylons of that ship. So
when I was looking at that one chart that I think is the same one you're talking about, it occurred to me that several of those ship designs looked about as similar to each other as the 9-pack ships we get in Stowe.
Well, that brings up a question, which of course is how exactly is all this going to be distributed? These ships.
I think there's going to be like maybe 2 and 2 at the start, because you got to keep in mind they did just come out with an expansion. They did come out with a bunch of
they mid-course correction here to Discovery content.
Yeah,
from what their original plan was.
Have they talked about like what their original plan was?
No, they haven't. Not a lot, but I think it's fairly obvious that they did a little bit of a course correction versus
they think
their original
long-term
plans.
Yeah, because I think it's like with all the Klingon stuff from the last season, I think that feels a little bit more of that feels like the course correction. but it's like we're reaching a natural endpoint. So we may have been like talking about the Borg at this point versus or something else.
They did actually hint at doing Borg stuff in the future as part of Butterfly.
Yeah, I mean they've been talking about it for a while. I mean, see the 2800 arc.
Butterfly was a while ago.
Yeah, well, the 2800s, like we're months away from being completely overrun from the Borg. Well, we seem to be doing fine. That admiral just hadn't accounted for the fact that ISA is very popular.
So I think even at the time it originally came out, the 2800 conference was meant to be a prelude to Task Force Omega. So that Task Force Omega comes out of that conference, and that's the response.
Well, nothing comes out of that conference because it never really went anywhere.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that in the timeline,
sidetracked.
Yeah,
Task Force Omega comes out, and that's basically the response to the Borg.
But I think the sign, or one of the signs, or two of the signs, really, that there was a little bit of there was a little bit more of a plan for DS9 content that had been changed. Is the lockbox announcement that we got yesterday is not a Discovery lockbox. Discovery 2 lockbox.
Well, I mean, let's face it. We all knew they were going to be doing a Herc lockbox at some point.
Because I thought they might change course and do a Discovery themed one.
I had to look up to see whether or not a Herc or a lockbox had already come out, because I'm just like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, I mean, we got the promo ship, but
mind-numbingly obvious they're going to do it. I mean, they build these amazingly cool Herc ships. And you look at this and like, there's no way they're going to go to that much work to build something and not sell it to us.
Obviously, because all of these ships were already in the Foundry.
Yeah, it's the usual pattern of releasing the basically the villain faction as a lockbox after their plot thread has been resolved. So see Vaudwar, see Iconian, see everyone.
Yep.
So,
the other one was the fiction blog that just went up as well. Actually, they've had several Victory's Life fiction blogs that have gone up, and it's like, to me that feels like maybe it was part of the old plan. Like, some of the stuff in Home necessarily wasn't meant to be released that early. It was more like it was going to stretch out towards at least now.
I'm not sure how much more they could have stretched it out, because I look back, this plot thread started with season 12. I mean, I don't think they were, like, under any circumstance they were looking at doing, like, sticking with DS9, because this is the culmination point. We have been on this arc for
but I think there might have been maybe one more episode, one or two more episodes, like, in between, the ending of the first batch and Home.
Yeah, and I think what changes that is just how you write Home. Like, basically, we got the epilogue to Home in Home rather than a subsequent mission. Yeah, it ties into something.
True.
So,
which they have done before in separate missions.
Yeah, so I think it's basically we're getting two missions with we're getting two missions with Age of Discovery, instead of saying one in between drops and then one for the season. I mean, that seems like a pretty natural move.
So I do agree that I think Age of Discovery was developed on a much tighter timeline than they normally like that. Because, I mean, we've heard it for years that they planned years in advance. And I think Discovery was an opportunity arose sometime either maybe this spring, maybe early summer, where they got the opportunity to do Discovery content and tie back in with the show. And they, of course, jumped on it.
And they jumped on it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so basically, because it's just like, why not?
They may have started this process over a year ago, so that's not a...
Yeah, they visited with CBS. Yeah, they visited with CBS during Discovery, like either like early on in Discovery's run or just before. So they've probably since Discovery was announced. About that. Yeah, ever since Discovery was announced, they've probably been changing their long-term plan, because it's like, well, we know there's going to be a show set in this era, so we'll look at finishing up our DS9 stuff and then move on to this era. And that sounds like, a pretty easy switch. So it's not like course correction like during Victory's Life. It's just like, no, we got to change everything. No, I think it's just basically the
I don't think they changed everything. I think maybe they did change some things, though.
I think it's going to more or less be sort of like this midpoint hit. So what we're going to be dealing with in Age of Discovery immediately, we'll see how it affects like the next expansion, like proper expansion. So number 5.
Well, they did seem to tie it into, what was going on in the 25th century with the whole thing with Worf becoming the torchbearer.
Yeah. So
I think that was an addition to sort of tie it all together.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a question of, like, for the next expansion, did they do something like the Borg Cooperative as mini faction, or like House Smoke High as an alternate Klingon starting experience?
Another thing that I found was interesting is that they had in one of the it may have just been a lore blog, but they had Jim Pock name drop to Kuvma. That particular scene was interesting because while Jim Pock didn't say that he actually thought Takuma did a good job as a leader, he did, however, mention that he successfully united the houses in a very contentious time period.
Yeah,
well, you remember in the epilogue scene where you're talking to everybody on DS9 at the end of Home, he name drops L'Rell as well. So
didn't he also name drop Vogue too?
I think he might have. Yeah,
he just name dropped all the just everyone in that group.
Well,
it's like, yeah, I mean, one would have been, I think one would have been reasonably subtle, but to like go through the list of like, and these 3 people from Discovery, yes, we are maybe doing Discovery content in the near future. Stay tuned.
Yeah, really, it's
telegraphing
it's
it
like like a lot. I just noticed something about this console here. It has cylinders sticking out of it. These things aren't buttons. They're like isolinear data rods or something.
So speaking of that, let me give you an invite to the bridge here, Dragoon.
Okay, hang on.
Since that's the thing that we're doing here is...
bring up the show notes because I did run through all the Discovery announcements from the last from the last 10 Forward Weekly. That was a good show. I mean, with a lot of meaty stuff. So that was where we got the confirmation. Oh yeah, I forgot about the other thing they showed off.
I'm surprised at you.
We can dive into that. That was a fun one. Yesterday was tough. Today, let's get into the happy stuff. So yeah.
Well, we'll delay that for just a second because Dragoon's here on the bridge here. Okay, so this is the Walker Bridge. It's a work in progress, and actually took a little bit of a step backwards in this latest patch that dropped on, I believe it was yesterday. The doors disappeared.
However, if you look closely, you'll notice when I fire at the empty holes, it actually has wall there. It's just an invisible one. Yeah.
I'm sure that will get fixed. But in any case, this is, screen accurate, of course, with the usual little bit of size up. Just to accommodate stuff.
Give room for that camera.
It has some interesting non-text on here, which it kind of is one of those like things we have these weird symbols that you, the viewer, don't know what mean, but clearly the people in the universe know that they mean something.
One of the things that that you sort of immediately notice when you're walking around, but I didn't see in the show, is that there's actually glass in the floor.
Oh yeah, and if you look at the right angle, you actually see the star field through the glass in the floor. Mm-hmm.
Yep, they're ventral telescope mounts or telescope ports.
Yeah, since this bridge is mounted on the underside of the Walker class, and this comes as default with the Malachowski as well.
Yeah. If you didn't look through the doors yet, we do have those other rooms, which would seem to be main deck, engineering.
They're not. Those are transporter rooms.
Oh yeah.
Actually, it's like 3 different.
All 3 of them.
So I saw.
One is the Discovery style, and there's 2 that are more the Walker class style.
Yeah. So that was okie dokie. So we might have an additional place to go into for this one. We shall see.
And then if you look at this door over here, this is clearly a turbo lift shaft.
Yep, just untextured.
Mm-hmm. As you say, work in progress. You know, some of the bridge officers aren't quite hooked up to where they're supposed to be. Like, you know, these guys ought to be
Some of these characters look like they're supposed to be in a different part of the ship that hasn't been built yet.
The one thing I will note is that they might actually be standing at attention for one of these things, or just basically for like one of the officer with the duty officer contact, because that actually, to me, that's also on the Crossfield Bridge, and that actually seemed pretty natural.
It says operations on it, which is a guy you normally have in your ship's engineering section.
except for ships that don't have any other interior.
Right.
Things.
But I suspect that we're actually getting a full interior for this, though. I mean, they did go to the work of building a transporter room, so you know.
Yeah. Well, it's
part of it
and then you
depends
have
on
this
what they're
person over
going to
here
build.
named a counselor, which again, that's in your ship's medical area.
But
Engineering officer, etc. You see
these guys are providing those services, though. So the one thing they have done in the past is provided a lot of those duty officer things on your bridge through a single console. So moving them to your bridge seems like a pretty natural move, because you know that like on TNG, the ship's counselor was on the bridge for most of the show. So
they also commented on how that was not considered normal for a Starfleet ship, and how that for the first few seasons of TNG, she technically was not authorized to be on the bridge since she hadn't passed that stupid bridge officer exam thingy.
That was
one.
Fartoid, who is in our chat, says the doors are being installed Tuesday.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All
right, so are we going to switch the Crossfield ones?
Well, I want to draw your attention to a small detail I just noticed. The chairs, they're on these little tracks. Like
that is cool. I didn't notice that.
I like that.
Actually, something
I
noticed.
A lot of sense over here.
And this is really the first time I've been able to study this Shenzhou bridge in any detail, because we didn't get a lot of screen time with it. In between the two consoles here is a dome-like device, very similar to the that Astro navigation thing that the Constitution bridge had.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, except it's attached to the floor instead of at table height.
That's probably why the chairs, that's one thing you can say that over for. It might be a little bit more for the captain's benefit, but basically look down there. I like the chair. I want this chair. I'm going to steal the chair.
All right, so...
Okay, that's amusing. I just would notice something weird. If you go into shooter mode and attempt to shoot at a chair, it actually registers that as you interacting with the chair, so it makes you sit in it instead of shooting it.
All right, let's switch over and take a look at the Crossfield Bridge.
Yay, that one's mine.
I've got it too.
Crossfields for everyone.
All right, visit bridge. Now you will notice that my bridge officers do not have the same outfit I do. Well, that's because they don't get the shiny gold armor look. They get the somewhat less shiny version.
You want to send us invites?
Yeah, just as soon as I finish zoning in. For some reason, I'm still at 1.5%. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, spinning up the instance. Yes.
Working well because it's trivial. Notice how this is labeled fed_cross_01_bridge. It doesn't have a proper name.
Work in progress.
Of course it is. Okay, now how do you bring up the...
Oh my god, stop giving me new missions.
I know, Quinn is... I'm getting a restraining order against him.
Disable mission auto hail.
And... Where's the invite to bridge button?
It should be off to the side in the...
Yeah, next to the return to sector space button.
Yeah, it's usually where it is.
And it ain't there. Okay, I'm leaving the bridge and then to going to team and see if it'll bring you to my bridge because we're teamed together.
Yeah, maybe because it's zoning. And
remember how we discussed earlier about how it has this weird glitch that causes it to bring your bridge officers with you?
Yeah, it could just be treating it like a standard ground map.
Yeah. Anyways, everyone needs to team with me.
Bear with us as we get ourselves situated here. They did give us some details on the missions that are going to be dropping.
Somebody's just not letting me invite to team. Weird.
So I'm with Greendragoon right now, so Dragoon.
Oh.
Try again. Bergen, do you have the Crossfield Bridge?
I do, yes.
Oh, we're together now, so we just need Dragoon in here now.
Wait, what's the name of the character Greendragoon's logged in with?
I just do at Greendragoon.
Oh. All right, invited. Let's see if you automatically get pulled to my bridge. Wait, you're at Drazana. Oh, you might not get pulled to my bridge.
Well, there's no way of fixing location.
Yeah, it's only going to pull in Tarja at... Well, in theory, if all of you were in Sol System number 1, when I go to my bridge, it'll pull you into my bridge with you.
I think he's correct.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
All right,
I'm thinking...
See, because when it gives me the choose your away team thing, it brings up Tarja.
Yeah, that's just me.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
So
hold on.
if you guys are here too.
Yeah, I'm just exiting.
In Sol System 1.
I'm exiting.
I have a button that says beam up to Markhawkman.
I blame Tarja for that because that appeared as soon as I added them
Yeah,
to the team.
that's heading out.
Okay.
Now apparently is in the Sol System is where it starts.
Well, I mean, they're probably trying to get.
And I guess he's no longer Damar Khan. Interesting change. I don't know if that's intentional.
See, that's actually something that got brought up in one of the 10 Forward weeklies. All right, now it has everyone.
Here we go. Crossfield Bridge.
So before we get into the Crossfield Bridge, just to give the news that we are trying to give, just from previous conversation there, Kale showed off the Tardigrade on the last Trend Forward Weekly, and he remapped an NPC to show it off on the dev server. So it might the one we get as maybe a vanity pet might not be as large. It might be, say, a baby tardigrade. But yeah, something like that is very likely coming in. Okay, well,
it still looks pretty good.
This is weird. These are not my bridge officers. I blame Duncan.
We got 2 Jagoros on the bridge.
Tell you one thing right away.
For a bridge officer.
Yeah, I got his ND repped.
Tell you one thing right away about this bridge. When you sit in the chair, the consoles pop up on the arm.
Yeah, that particular thing is cool.
I love that.
Another thing I noted that's interesting about the style of console or bridge station I'm currently sitting at is that the chair back does not have collision.
There is also no sounds on this map except for the existent doors to the.
Well, you can hear footsteps of people that go tap tap tap.
Yeah, but
walk.
there's no ambient
ambient
sound.
I noticed something else that's really, really screwball. Watch this. There's an invisible wall around this console.
You can't walk up the ramp. That's a shame.
It's just that console, though. You can jump on top of the other consoles just fine.
Do.
You can actually read some of the stuff on this.
Why didn't you name your forge bridge officer Escipio?
That's her name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why is that her name?
Because it's her name. Last name of an officer.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do the conventional naming scheme because it didn't fit that character.
Okay, then.
Oh, cool. Here's a communication station. I can be a random communications officer.
You can actually read some of the stuff on these consoles.
The details they put in these consoles is nice.
They put a lot of
it's just sort of random numbers, but
I think they cribbed this stuff from the TV show.
Oh, of course.
I did know one very
and
amusing detail.
It's an engineering station.
Look at this thing over here.
Tactical.
Yeah, it has this thing on the main screen that's it's not red alert, it's black alert.
This console says LCARS control. Although this is usually where
really
Burnham
cool,
stands, so I'm just guessing a science station.
Yeah.
I guess even in TOS's era, LCARS was a thing. Which, I mean, there's nothing in canon to say it wasn't. It's just the term didn't get introduced until TNG.
I'm looking for references to cetaceans.
One of the interesting things in TOS is that they did actually give the consoles some sort of like a sense of structure, so that it didn't just like have like walls of text just there for no reason.
There are a lot of classic buttons on this, though. Classic push switches next to the LCAR display or LCAR displays.
Yeah, there's.
I'm not sure that all
TNG.
of those are actually buttons, though, because some of them, like I mentioned in the other one, look to be more like the Federation equivalent of USB sticks.
The
Some of
Spore
these are
drive.
definitely buttons, though.
The Spore drive has a big red button.
Oh, wait.
I found the Spore drive button
Where are you?
over by the Helmsman station.
Oh, there we go. That's the tardigrade button.
Oh.
Picture of, come on, replace it with a picture of a little baby tardigrade.
I am kind of curious what 4 planets are displayed next to the Spore drive, though. I get this feeling like I should recognize them from somewhere.
You know, I did too, and I have a thought about where I've seen them before. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Oh, is it that? Oh. Yeah, I think, like, oh, yeah, back to the, that,
Okay, I got my copy of Star Trek Star Charts.
yeah.
Because we already know that they stole the map from this. Which is very convenient because so did Stowe.
See, one of the interesting things about this is that it does actually give you identifiers for those planets, just not names.
Yeah. Well, it makes it nice and generic, so you don't feel like every time you go to this.
If you were a Starfleet officer, you could totally read that.
Well, I can read CR58AE.
Yeah, but you don't know what it means.
But if you were to plug it into a Federation database, it would tell you.
Okay, so while Dragoon's looking up, okay, so
No perfect
does anyone
matches.
remember what this is from the show? this little alcove over here with glowy things in it?
Oh yeah.
It looks like a room filled with circuit breakers to me.
It says, let's see if I can get the camera. L-Cars control note, just generic screen. Yeah, it seems like a computer core.
Yeah. These kind of look like server blades or hard drives.
I couldn't remember if they had actually used this little thing for anything specific on the show.
I get the feeling it's something we did see in the show, at least for like half a second.
Well, certainly in the background.
I'd say it's a computer system.
I mean, this is technically a science ship, so
yeah,
I would say it may be something like a data recorder,
or like the ship's collection of RAID drives,
something like that. I don't know. Usually the computer core is bigger on a starship.
Well,
this might just be like an outward interface, or select,
like a second
server data.
Yeah, like a secondary.
Or something for some specific use, perhaps.
I mean, it could just be the Discovery equivalent of the ICE linear chip bank, like the one they have in Haven Engineering or somewhere on in TNG.
Oh, hey, I just thought of an experiment they want to do quick, so everyone needs to leave the bridge.
Not going to do that.
Well, I was gonna go back to the bridge, but this time, instead of using Duncan's bridge officer, use my own, to see if that's why it used Duncan's bridge officers.
So I'm kind of curious. What do you guys think about the view screens as windows that Discovery's been doing?
I like it. Like, it's one of those things where I think it's much more dynamic, and I do like it as part of a show like this.
Well, it's something that they introduced in the Kelvin timeline films, and I liked it there, and I like it here too.
Yeah, I like it.
I think they actually introduced it in Next Generation.
It wasn't
Enterprise D.
Enterprise D didn't have a physical window, though.
No,
No, it was...
both the D and the E had holographic view screens.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a couple of cases where
they showed
it when it was off. Yeah.
There's also that scene in Nemesis where the screen gets blown to smithereens.
But that's the wall. And if the thickness of that wall isn't just a view screen, it's not like a view screen shattered. That section of bridge was taken out. So it's not just that screen shattered. So this is definitely something that was new to the Kelvin timeline. They started doing it, but it makes a whole lot more sense for TV production. It is harder to do than just a very well blocked off screen for showing exactly what you want the audience to pay attention to. So,
but they have the budget for that. So.
But yeah, it's where the modern technology is. You can actually show it as a screen, and then you can treat later iterations of it being holographic as a technological step up. So this would be a more primitive condition, or something that was just basically an affectation of the time.
So,
or maybe
can
you guys get off the bridge now?
No, because
we're filming.
We're doing a show.
Yeah, we're filming.
Yeah, but I'm
doing a show. Come on.
Well, I was going to go back to the bridge, and you can continue.
I was going to say we don't actually know which way the original TOS was meant to be. Well, they could definitely display other things on the screen. There were also like scenes where like everything would be frozen on the bridge, but then I want to say it was like Cat's Paw when they had the Enterprise like frozen and shrunken down. Yeah, like Kirk looking through the view screen.
Yeah, but that's it's hard with TOS.
Yeah.
I never got the impression that was a window, particularly.
Yeah, and they didn't show it on the outer hull either. I mean, it basically, if it was a window, it was a one-way transparency. So that's where
what was a window was the little round thing at the top, on the very top of the bridge.
Yeah, because they panned into that.
Yeah.
Like a skylight, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was one on the D bridge as well, Enterprise D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I think it's the Origin was the first one. The Origin bridge was the first bridge in SDO to have a display window.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like this. And
they get on board the Discovery Enterprise, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, check out our really cool view screen technology." It's like the first of its kind.
They haven't have they really hung too many lights on stuff like that before?
Obviously there have been times when, I mean, they bent over backwards to explain the ever-changing Klingons.
Well, not really.
No, they explained them in Enterprise.
Well, that was the bending over backwards part.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying
Okay,
Discovery.
Yeah. I mean, that was.
In Discovery, not so much. They kind of just do their own thing, and
yeah,
they like to reference things, but they don't necessarily try to explain the differences.
They don't really explain why things look different. So basically, that just leaves it to it's a modern show, so of course they look different.
Yeah, and I think they would only do something like that if they're trying to basically do a little bit of an joke with someone bring it up. But the subtext of that conversation would be that no one is interested, and everyone just kind of moves on after that point without remarking on anything. It would just be sort of a joke for the basically for the people
Well, and that was how
who are going over this type of stuff.
That was how the Klingon one originally came about. It was just that kind of joke in what was it, the DS9 episode Trials and Tribulations.
Yeah,
it was those are Klingons. We don't talk about it.
Yeah,
they should have just left it at that.
I know. Yeah. I mean, that I think, just that episode, it was a good episode in Enterprise, or a good couple of episodes. It did come up with an interesting explanation, which you can kind of read a lot more subtext into for how that played out in Klingon politics. And it does give something in Discovery that they could really leverage as how L'Rell consolidates power is through the augment Klingons, basically giving elevating them and their position in the Empire through service in basically her remodeled United Klingon Defense Force fleet.
Not to mention, we've also got Vogue/Ash Tyler now, who's kind of stuck in that Klingon human in between.
Yes. So
we know they're going to come back to that in season 2.
Yeah. So this could it was a sort of it's a weird episode in Enterprise now. Because it's after the fact, it's maybe a little too much explanation, but it does set up a lot of good stuff they could do in Discovery.
Well, in Enterprise, it was a good episode because it was a good episode. The fact that it explains Klingon augments or smooth-skinned Klingons is kind of... It's not the part that makes the episode great.
Episode good. Yeah. This this stuff should be hooked up when Age of Discovery launches, or if not, with the initial release and shortly thereafter. But yeah, Cryptic is bringing us these fancy bridges, and Kale didn't give us the full confirmation yet, but he was basically just saying, guys, this is before the triple update. Look at our last lore blog, which had a picture of this bridge.
I'm loving the detail.
You had to figure they were building some of this stuff for the episodes as well. So
yeah,
when they do that, they generally offer them as playable bridge areas as well, like they did for the TNG Enterprise bridge and interior and the Voyager as well. Yeah,
and the one thing that they did say probably why this map is in the best state right now is that on 10 Forward, Kale did say, this is before this went live, that they weren't really able to show off on the live server these bridges because they weren't hooked up yet. And what they had access to at the time was the maps in the missions themselves.
Which had a lot of their stuff on them.
Yeah, so they weren't going to...
From the missions.
Yeah, they would have to play through those missions in the context of showing them off in the dev. We're not going to spoil those. You're just going to have to wait, guys. And we didn't have to wait long, because, they're here.
he made a comment about how he wasn't sure how complete this bridge was, and I can see why he wouldn't want to put it on the live stream in its current condition, because
no doors.
Yeah.
No doors, and it.
Well, it had doors before the Friday patch.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just they're going through processes of hooking things up.
Yeah.
Also, the note, like with headphones on, the note ambience really starting to get to me. That's just kind of like the pure silence, and I'm just like, put on a little music at just like at a low level, just like
bridges need noise. The little needs the machine that goes ping.
It makes it even more noticeable when you walk past what's supposed to be the turbo lift.
Yeah.
And you hear the door swish open, even though there's no door there.
It's funny because I've heard comments of people who got to see like the actual Star Trek sets in person, and they would comment as how eerie it is to see the sets without that hum of the engine they would add in.
I went to a museum down in Phoenix, years and years ago now, that was doing a Star Trek exhibit, and one of the things they had was a replica set for the TNG bridge, and I'm pretty sure they were actually playing some sound effects in the background for that one.
Neat.
But yeah, I mean, it's just so ingrained as you watch the show that it's bizarre when it's gone. Obviously, people on the stream can't hear any of this because I don't have the sound turned on.
What?
Well, neither can I. I've got it muted at the moment.
Well, I mean, with this bridge, pretty much the only thing you hear is footsteps of people running around.
Yeah, and the swish of the turbo lift doors.
Or weapons fire, I think. I think you can hear weapons fire too.
Well, anything you guys do, obviously, you would hear, but there's no.
I'm taking over. I'm deploying my ground troops. I'm pulling a Lorca. Because, yeah, I started having some pretty detailed, like, musings about, well, mainly for the backstory of this character I'm playing on right now, but, like, how I would do, like, a full-on Discovery thing with another ship, basically going through Discovery's arc. And it almost came down to just, like, what I would have written instead of Discovery. Kind of following along with some of the same stuff, but all at the same time being a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where there is a lot of opportunity, especially in the mirror universe now, for a little bit more of a deep dive, because a lot of the previous episodes we've seen, it basically are just focusing on the parallels. I mean, because it's the mirror universe. But I was kind of thinking it might be fun to run through a scenario where you don't know it's the mirror universe, kind of similar to the mission we played recently, but from the perspective of basically there's no identifiers. So you're basically going through a wasteland region where you're just dealing with people. And it's not until later that you start dealing with the Empire, because that's kind of the first thing you always see in a Mirror Universe mission, is just the mirror aspects, not just miscellaneous stuff that's unique to that universe. So unexplored space, wild space, stuff like that. So I'm like, it could be a good mission. We'll see. It's be an SSF reboot, though, so I'm not too keen on how to do that. But yeah, we'll see if, how closely I can loop it in with a tardigrade, because it would feature sort of a revamped Jigoro as basically humanoid with similar capabilities, basically species of Tardigrade Ranchers, so connected to the mycelial network.
So, Duncan, here's what you do.
How many head of tardigrade would they have?
What was that?
I said, how many head of tardigrade would you have on a ranch?
Basically, you're going to have a tough time keeping track of one. So you're just trying to follow it around. That's kind of the impetus for how she gets involved. So my thing would have actually been like have another Crossfield sort of at Starbase 1, and basically one guy in a ship. Basically, it's like, oh crap, the Klingons are going to come on board. What do? Spore jump, just random spore jump, get that ship out of there. And then my plot from there on would actually be ending up in the mirror universe, but at some just distant point. And then sort of working back towards Earth, and in turn back towards the Terran Empire, until you have that reveal of, oh crap, that's where I'm at right now. And then
I'm just thinking, like full on like tardigrade ranching now, like tardigrade cowboys. And
we can do that as a build on the show. I mean, build the tardigrade ranch.
Tardigrade ranch.
So what you do in your mission is the tardigrade in your mission can talk, but only Jigoro can hear him.
Actually, what I would have done is just kind of like that sort of like subtle communication where she's effectively translating for like little twitches and stuff like that. So it's not like she's hearing, but she's interpreting it, and then she teaches them how to use a data pad.
No, everybody else thinks she's nuts, and nobody will believe her.
Or like that, she's just like anthropomorphizing a pet. Because
that's what
like chances like. Because I also didn't want to make the jump because I don't know what scale of tardigrade Kale might eventually ship with the Foundry. So I've been imagining Lieutenant Tardigrade as in the big tardigrade. But if what we get is the vanity pet, then I'm going to be stuck with baby tardigrades. So this would be a good story for a baby tardigrade.
Ooh, what if you get both?
Well, one of the things that occurs to me is that there's a lot of people in real life who, to varying degrees of success, will attempt to interpret their pets' behaviors in terms of human behavior, and sometimes will discuss that as if the pet is talking, based on what the pet does.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely communication going on. It's just that you have to reinterpret it from their own standpoint. So not phraseology or neural language, but you can definitely infer intent from different intonations and different body language and that type of thing, because they are communicating with other cats. So it's just picking up on which cues are associated with what. So like learning a new type of language.
You can play that for laughs, though.
Oh, yeah.
Have them absolutely, believe that they are speaking to them in a language only nobody else can hear it, and it's not actually going on.
Yeah, like a great way to do that would be like the tardigrade giving an opinion, because that's something you can't have in basically in a rational conversation with a pet. Give an opinion on something like it not even just like it's too cold here, but just like he finds someone pretentious.
They kind of did that on Archer with the ocelot. Archer seems to be able to hear it speaking.
I need to see more of that show.
You can have Jigoro just keep referring to him as Lieutenant Tardigrade, even though she's the only person who calls him that.
Oh, like she actually wouldn't be Starfleet in this one. So it would basically be sort of like the sort of the impetus would be that, like, so you got basically the Sontag guy playing through kind of like a reverse Lorca type role. So starting off as basically the battle-hardened veteran and then sort of shifting it into an exploration type character, which is what I was really hoping they would go with the character, but they ultimately went with arbitrary evil bastard. So I'm kind of left unfulfilled for there, but it's a good opportunity for a character. But the impetus there would be that he's basically alone. He jumped the Crossfield. I might have a couple of other crew members as well, depending on the needs of the specific mission. But he basically jumped the Crossfield. He's alone on the ship, and then he's encountering something. He knows something else is on board, and there's the question of he knows it might be a tardigrade, and is like, oh crap, and then it turns out to be Jigoro 2.0. So and then
God,
she's
even worse.
But she's on board the ship not for straightforward reasons, is that she basically found a point in the mycelial network to basically escape from. Because I could have a little bit more depth at the Tardigrade Ranchers, where it's not necessarily like they're operating a Texas-style ranch, but might be a little bit more bioengineered. So more maybe
given the livestock, it probably would be, yes.
Yeah. So basically, she's an engineer creation in herself, who's basically a runaway, so trying to escape from effective slavery. So she's on board the ship, and she's trying to sort of like spin the story out. And stay on board to try to just keep, just get away. And then effectively they kind of form the nucleus of a crew, the rest of which, kind of like Maquis and Voyager style, would be people from the fringes of society that are sort of like coming on board the ship and then forming ad hoc alliances before they realize that this is a mirror universe thing.
And then here I was thinking that my Luft idea was ethically dubious.
So... yeah, so basically it's like, this is just me running through like how I would have written a full season, but it's sort of like, it works really well from the perspective of a show you're watching, but not necessarily it's a Foundry mission. So I would have to definitely...
yeah, you got to figure that part out.
Yeah, and it basically how the player would connect into this. Would I try to write an alternate starting experience, or like there's something weird going on with a time stream, make it a temporal mission? So it's one of those things where there might be much more simpler ways of getting Tardigrade in the Foundry. Basically, if we get the big asset, I just write a mission with him as Lieutenant Tardigrade, and then just involve a couple of other characters as well.
What do you do if you get both?
I have more jokes. So I start with the big one, and then there's just more, and he's not explaining what's going on. Like, are they his offspring? Are they just, like, migrating to him? And it's never explained. Like, if he's reproducing, how does he reproduce? Is he a he? Just leave it ambiguous.
Is he part tribble?
Yeah, it's just like, you just keep finding more baby tardigrades.
Yeah, until you're just, the entire map is covered in tardigrades.
Or yeah, you just like you're going on like at one point in the mission, you're just like going through a hallway, and it's just like just filled with the max number of NPCs, all baby tardigrade, just staring at you.
Well, one thing I've been thinking about doing in one of my missions, Foundry missions, that is in the future, is Imani is one of my characters who has one of the Luths as part of her crew. And what I was thinking about doing is writing a scene where this person gets fatally wounded and they decide they need the information that this person had in their brain. So since the person is clinically dead, they, have the doctors put their body back together. And then Luth does the whole DNA vampire thing and turns the person into another Luth. Which sort of brings them back to life, sort of, because it's now a Luth and remembers the person it used to be, but isn't really the same person.
So I'm going to say this with all possible affection. You guys are weird. Like, the both of you.
Yay.
Anyway, let's move it along because I have a little activity for us to do.
Okay.
So, since we know that one of the playable species that we're going to get for Age of Discovery is alien, let's make some.
As it happens, I got my Discovery Klingon made with the alien gen.
You can show people how you made that for starters. But let's make some aliens, and the only requirement is that they would look good in a Discovery uniform.
Okie dokie. I'm going to see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to switch over to live server Foundry.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Alrighty then.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing.
Quicker.
The one thing in the meantime we can also touch on is that Cryptic is very keen on revamping a lot of the website and in-game tutorials. And the pages in question has a thing on the Foundry. So do we want to start thinking about a more effective explanation of the Foundry and maybe some very specific tutorial videos?
Yes. I would say, yeah, I think that's definitely something we should think about that we can help them with.
Yeah.
The problem that we've run into in the past is that, when we try to do, explain the Foundry and how to start with it, it gets a little complicated.
Yeah, I would say break it down into single, maybe 2-minute videos where it's, we have one person explaining one feature, not a group discussion, because that does tend to increase the complexity. But I mean, this might be something Mark can do, or any one of us could simply produce. Except
we could split it up and have different people doing different things. I mean, I already did one along those lines, explaining how to make a mission where the choices of the player change the way the mission looks and plays.
And that's along the lines of what you would want to do. You would want to start with the absolute basics and keep it very short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so pre-scripted, pretty much.
To think of it like writing a textbook, and each of these videos would be a chapter in the textbook. My video would be something like one of the things you have in the back of the book, because it's something that relies on you knowing 6 or 7 other things prior to getting to that point.
Mm-hmm. But it could be as simple as, this is how you change a backdrop, and then you talk a little bit about why you would want to.
Yeah. So, or just that might be actually maybe just one thing for.
Backdrops is definitely something that I would make a separate video on because of the fact that it only looks simple if you don't look at the details. Oh boy, is it complicated.
I would say maybe with a one, like just a one-on-one thing on the Foundry, really don't cover any of the complexity. Just show people where all the options are, just to orient them, because you don't want to start giving them lectures on the first day. Because as someone who actually does this on a professional basis, that's definitely the way to get, just to get the deer in the headlights panic student, and then you're left, if you're actually doing a one-on-one session, of trying to talk them down after that point. So one thing might just be we have one 3-minute video on maps. So here's how you access, because I've had this as a really hard discussion to have with just pointing out to people where they can change, where the backdrop option is in the first place. So show them where it is, and just give a brief description. This is how you change the backdrop. This is how you change just everything like that. You don't go into detail explaining difference in backdrops, because they can figure that out through.
You just show them how.
This sounds like it's like the introductory chapter / index that you have in a lot of textbooks, where it's a list of what the other chapters are, and like a 1-paragraph description of what each chapter is about. It's
more like a 101 class with a lecture, because what we have to do in a lot of those is to give people a very broad background with covering a lot of different subjects, which in a graduate level, we're going to go into detail. We're going to talk about photosynthesis, we're going to talk about respiration, but we're not going to tell you exactly what happened in the Krebs cycle, because that's insane. So,
Krebs cycle.
Yeah, so it's basically just giving you just a high school level, college level 101. That's where I'd say this is probably going to be the most effective, of just giving the people the real basics.
So I have been wanting to, for a while now, to take a second stab at our Foundational Foundry Series. I kind of feel like the first few episodes are okay, but we kind of got sidetracked a lot.
Yeah, and I think the sort of the remit too of building a complete episode all in one video set, that is a little tough. And so, we do actually have a better example of that with Kale's first attempt. We can link to that, and it's 2 hours.
What I'm thinking is 2 things that we'll do differently this time. 1, we will actually outline everything ahead of time. And 2, we'll break it down into little chunks, but we'll only have one of us doing a particular episode.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah, that does.
All right. So
that's part of what I was talking about with the whole index concept, is that with whenever you're preparing something like that, you first need to decide what each chapter in the book is going to be. Then you write the index.
Yeah, but I mean, even just taking our overview, which was I think the first 5 or 6 episodes, we could do better.
Yeah, and I did write for the Victory's Life Challenge. I did make sure that I wrote in my PSA post, I did go through each of the sections with the general outline. So something like that, that type of breakdown, just do it topic by topic, first with the major sections, and then at the end you can loop in sort of more synthetic topics like how do you place enemy groups, because I think that's going to be a good one.
But that's it. That would be its own subject. So we might cover what's in something first, and then come back to it and start stabbing specific little topics.
Yeah.
All right. So I have got my Discovery Kling loaded up on Holodeck in the editor.
Yep, I'm in the Foundry right now, starting to play with stuff, and
yeah,
damn you, Cryptic. Okay, the Foundry. Oh, dang it! This is going to be more complicated now. The Foundry MP, the Foundry version of the Discovery uniform, now has the separate collar.
Well, they said they would do that.
The way I understand it, the live server has the ability to color the collar separately from the rest of the uniform.
Yeah, so that was
trick to it is that you don't have a third color and set what color you want the color to be.
You're breaking up there.
So yeah, I'm guessing that they're just going to add in an extra option here for the fourth color.
Yeah, they only had that third one. But yeah, Mark, you're breaking up now.
Uniform. Then when you switch to the Discovery uniform, it'll use that color.
So,
all right, so you're going to tell us about your Klingon here.
So I want to say I just kind of loosely based this off of looking at Takuvma, like grabbing screenshots of him and kind of pulling it. So I noticed they kind of made the eyes look a little bit wider, and obviously they've got the protrusion at the back of the head, so it sticks out a little bit more. The ears are very small, and while we typically, none of the Klingons have had hair in Discovery, I think I put a top knot on mine. Same brow ridges as before, tried to find one that kind of worked, but I think I did. And then the nose is like really wide on the Discovery Klingons. We are getting some pretty serious feedback from somewhere.
I think that might be Mark.
Some background noise there.
All right.
Go away.
Yes. Okay, so I mean, this actually isn't the only Discovery character I've attempted. I've actually attempted on this character when they showed off the Andorians. I attempted one of those two. This one's a little bit harder to do closely, but I kind of did try to go in the same direction. So I've got these very prominent brow spikes and more prosthetics like on the cheeks and whatnot to give a little more angular look. So kind of trying to simulate some of that.
Now that's one of those where at some point we may get those customization options, but it's a maybe at this point.
I think they'll get to them eventually.
Yet, but yeah,
the thing that annoys me about the Discovery boots is like never can seem to get it to perfectly color match the uniform, which of course means that it's because it's using a different texture or something. But still, yeah.
I think those uniforms could definitely use a little touch up.
So, am I the only person who thought when they saw the Kelpie or Suru, thought Rigelian?
I thought he was Rigelian for the longest time.
It does,
never crossed my mind.
He vaguely resembles one of the versions of Rigelians because Rigelian is one of those species that has had like 4 different looks over the years.
Yeah, specifically the one we basically have in this game, which is the Enterprise iteration.
Don't know that we've actually got Rigelians as an option.
Yes, we do.
Oh, I meant
I have one as one of my bridge
gen.
officers.
Oh no, not an alien gen. No, their parts aren't available.
They're not?
They're not available.
Really?
You've got a lot of the the face options, but we don't have the head type and we don't have the skin type.
Okay.
So, do you guys have any particular ideas of an alien from Discovery you'd like me to try and create?
I'm thinking of just original creations.
You could try going for the bug guy.
Which one's the bug guy?
The bug guy. I don't know.
It's they showed him like a little bit in the background and he was pretty weird looking.
Yeah, he is a giant fly spider.
Now you can make that shape a little bit if you do the bilobed one, and then take the cranium width and forehead width to maximum.
Okay, you're gonna have to find a picture for me.
He actually might be a little bit more doable in the Foundry because we have the new cool type, and that might be good for his texture.
Okay, I'm gonna have to switch over to the Foundry.
Let me see if we can find a screenshot. Oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah, stick him in the Skype.
I just noticed something. It's one of those little things that the devs have put into the game because they know that they're not actually planning to use it for anything. So they build it just because it's cool and then let us play with it in the Foundry because they added it to the game because they thought it was cool. And that is, you remember the alien race called the Antarans? Yeah, we have the ability to make Antarans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, originally that was, there weren't any Kobali in the game, but we had Kobali parts.
A lot of the original Alien Gen were just directly taken from species. Yeah, just species that weren't weren't serviced in the main factions. And so we got the Vorta parts, we got the Cretacean parts. Yeah, all those guys are non-original creations. Well, for the most part, Cryptic did exaggerate a lot to populate the options out. But yeah.
I mean, there's that just from TNG. There's so many possibilities that, it takes a long time just to make every single possibility they added in TNG, which is where the Antarans came from.
Yeah, in the early TNG, they kind of like to get a little crazy.
Oh yeah, they had the Antedians in TNG. I mean, The one time they had a celebrity cameo and no one had any idea who the celebrity was.
Okay.
So I got my first one here. Share screen or just screenshot?
Hang on, I'm not set up. Better just do screenshot.
Okay.
And then they had the episode with the Antikins and the Sealay. That was equally interesting.
Here, I've got one as well.
I'm still working on something.
My guy looks reasonably friendly.
Yeah, I'll just throw in a character from this project at the timeline.
All right, so there's Dragons.
Squeaky cat. Squeaky cat.
Yeah, I think your cat likes my alien.
Meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow. Aw. If I get baby tardigrades, I'll do a baby tardigrade playing with a kitten scene. Okay, throwing two in there. So the first would be basically the Tardigrade Rancher species, and then the second one would just be miscellaneous background alien.
Okay, I just realized something that I'm going to have to do two of them. This first one that I'm going to throw in, it is, the one that I made before I thought of what I was talking about with the Legion of Myth guys on Thursday, but I'm going to do that one now, as soon as I finish giving you guys a copy of this one.
One of the things with the Alien Gen to experiment with is taking things to the extremes, the sliders.
Yeah.
Okay, this is one of them where I probably should have taken it a little farther with the sliders than I did, but the basic look of it is something that's already so weird and alien that that would add something to it, but, you know. Okay. And there is number 1. Not to do number 2.
There's the potential in the alien gen to make a lot of scary looking aliens.
Oh, you can do some really, really screwy stuff.
Especially now that...
You remember what I did with the Dark Soldiers, trying to make something that looks like trying to do something as close to a Shellyak as you possibly can do. And I actually came up with something that's reasonably close, just a little too humanoid. Which, unfortunately, we can't actually do anything but humanoids.
So I think, if I make a alien gen character for a Starfleet officer, I'm going to make him look a little bit friendly.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of my thought process there. Of course, you can make him smile. To some extent.
See that one? I named the costume Tree Person because the idea here is that the texture of their skin is because their skin is literally made out of wood.
Build the bridge out of him.
Of course, this also means that the character in question is, in some ways, like an ant, so they can they don't really move all that quickly. But if one of them grabs a hold of you, hee boy.
I always thought the alien gen was one of the best features that Cryptic made.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Quite good.
I probably wouldn't still be playing Star Trek Online if it wasn't for Alien Gen.
Well, I mean, my first 2 characters in the live server, well, actually, no, not the second one. The third one, but the first and the third one were both Alien Gen characters because when I started playing the game, I decided I wanted to play as Orions, and I had to start as a Fed and get up to level 8 in order to unlock the KDF faction. So I built my first Fed character to look like an Orion just because I liked Orions.
And it was nice you could make some species that weren't really available for your faction.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's because the third character I made in Stowe was Iridian, who is a Vorta.
You still working?
Okay, this character is going to look rather boring at first glance because of the fact that the idea here is actually something that's very close to human, and the main difference is actually not something visible on the outside.
Of course, with how this is all structured, we're basically limited to the rubber forehead aliens.
To an extent.
I mean, we can play with the features a little bit more than maybe, they would have on, early TNG or something, but we're limited to this sort of humanoid aliens. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Next option, tardigrade style aliens.
Kind of referencing back to the picture of the guy. Because yeah, he does. He looks very non-humanoid, which is a challenge. Not an impossible one, but
Yeah, the multiple eyes is going to be tricky. You could do.
I don't know if I'm going to try the
Impossible.
multiple eyes. I'm just saying that.
Well, you can
The other
fake
ones are just
extra
crevices.
eyes with tattoos.
Yeah, the benzite
That's true.
parts might be good, but yeah, especially the pedipalps. We may have been joking a little bit there.
I don't know. I'm getting closer.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna regret this.
Might be something for,
you gave him an idea. Now he's decided to run with it.
Please trust me. By the time I'm done with this, it will be quite the abomination.
Okay, time for number 2. Okay, you're probably not going to be able to guess what this one is inspired by, or what makes this species so different from humans, until I explain it. Oh well. However, there is a song related to the topic. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
oh boy.
The idea here is it's kind of like the whole pod people thing, where you have these plant-based life forms who take on the appearance of humanoids, and they look nearly identical to humans. It's just that they only look human on the outside.
They're nice and gooey on the inside and go great on pizza.
That's actually the thing with the Killer Tomatoes thing, is that they're actually people. It's just that they aren't human. This is, of course, the reason why this one is a bridge crew and not like a random monster you're killing.
Okay, I'm throwing another one in there. Do.
I see. You're going to swap me with photos to try and stop me from creating this character.
Yes. We must do our good to save the people watching tonight. Although if you're listening via SoundCloud,
You're one of the lucky
Garthon.
ones. I don't think we've actually put anything up on SoundCloud in years.
Yeah.
Well, Garthon says he listens to the audio feeds on these guys.
Okay, I'm behind on those.
Well, like, how I've heard this is being aggregated, but
YouTube,
yeah.
Twitch and YouTube.
Okay.
I need to get
Are we
caught
still
up
going
on
out on iTunes?
We're supposed to be. I need to update it. I'm way behind.
Yep, made more of a feline type alien. Might be a retcon of Infrosions with darker hair options.
That's horrifying. It looks way too much like Duncan.
I think it looks like someone who would, call you Grasshopper and tell you to snatch the rock from his hand.
Yeah, that too.
I'm gonna play around with hats. Oh God. So horrifying.
And yet not a bad, resemblance.
Yeah, I mean, you just sort of have it in the background. It would sort of, someone would get the reference.
Nothing I'm gonna be able to do for those cheek protrusions. The series.
Well, of course, there's a few options in the Foundry that we don't have in the game.
Ooh,
like
that tendrils.
Oh
certainly, certainly in the spirit of the.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't mess with that one.
This is slightly a cheap way of doing something, but totally works.
All right, so what do you think? I mean,
I
not
mean,
screen accurate, but
no, but as far as something goes in the Foundry, I mean, that is a pretty darn good attempt.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
so my rule as a Foundry is don't worry about getting it perfect. Get it close enough that they don't notice.
Or at the very least, close enough where they go like, oh, I kind of get what they're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just noticed something about the pitted pattern that's cool. If you set the value to maximum, it actually creates distortions in the skin that look almost like they have ridges of eyes going over their head. Ooh, it's even better if you turn it to minimum, because instead of being rounded bumps, they're now indentations that look almost like eye sockets. That is cool.
Yeah, I got a good one.
And I'm trying to get your last shot up.
Reminds me of Dr. Krauss from Hellboy. The suit is just, for interacting with humanoids. He's actually just, a gaseous creature.
I was thinking you basically referencing the Daft Punk bridge officer on the Shenzhou. Yeah, more of a cyborg thing going on.
Do we have those android parts available? Nope. We don't?
No, the closest thing you can get is a liberated Borg officer who just has their parts colored white.
That's what I do for my character when we did Discovery Roundtable.
That's actually something that I've done in the past, just because I have so many Borg characters. I felt like making them different from each other. So one of them, I made her implants like shiny silver. Actually, more than one now that I think about it, but you get the idea.
Dang it. This character by himself just sort of makes me think like he would be good for like a number 2 officer. Oh God. This might be something that makes the Foundry mission I was talking about earlier a little bit more likely. We'll see.
it does. I mean, you know, I was joking about the Hellboy thing earlier, but it does bring to mind, you know, sort of a character that, you know, is maybe not humanoid and is just sort of wearing that as a way to better make humanoids more comfortable interacting with him.
So
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean-
Men in Black.
Well, that's also kind of like with the Killer Tomatoes thing, is because their actual natural form is a mutant tomato. They're not, you know, they don't have arms and legs. That's part of the reason why they take human form, is because now they have arms and legs and they can walk around and do things.
Or here you go, it's a Medusan.
Yeah.
Deuce, all you need is a box.
Or you can do the Men in Black routine where it's a robotic body with a pilot inside it.
But
very tiny one.
Yeah, but for Medusa would be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, oh man, I'm just sort of wondering, like, it would be great to have a Medusan officer like that. I'm just wondering if it would be worth specifying that they are that, or because I was thinking, like, the joke is that you never explain.
Why wouldn't you?
Why would But the opposite would be you never explain their species. Because I was kind of going with this for Starfleet Security Season 1, where you had the alien doing this basically you had the alien officer doing the I'm the alien sort of outsider routine, but you never got any detail on him. Because it just playing to that role of, like, it's not like you're trying to, what I kind of find is sometimes a patronizing story where it's just like, oh, you're bringing him into your thing. It's like, no, he's good where he is right now. But yeah, like, I do like that as Medusan, though, just because it does bring a classic,
it brings in the classic touchstone, plus, you know, a little bit of a different take on it, where he can walk around and interact with you and speak with you.
Yeah, and you still get the joke of you never quite understand, like, what exactly he is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I kind of feel like it would almost be worth kind of putting your own spin on it, making a different race who's still humanoid but has to be completely covered, or dire consequences will ensue.
Yeah, that's
like
another
the,
maybe something along
the
lines of the Ben or the Benzites, where the explanation of the Benzite little breathing stick in TNG was that their home planet had various gases in the atmosphere that you don't have in most environments that they actually needed to breathe.
I did a species in that showed up just in a bar scene for SSF episode 3, or it was just an optional dialogue, but I went into full detail on species. I was just using the EV suit alien, and it turns out that he's made up of 3 different parts. He breathes methane and just is completely non-humanoid. It's just he happens to be in a form right now that simulates a humanoid body. So it's basically someone who's free form for their internal anatomy, is completely environmentally determined, and he's basically been shaped into this form, and that's completely natural for his anatomy. So I could do something like that, and I like that. Just like making it ambiguous, like he's in a humanoid form, but it's not original to his species biology, and there might be a lot of cybernetics there. So yeah, I'm just going to send one more screenshot, because I
have a question for you. What are Cellularis ears? Because I'm seeing those, and the ear shape looks kind of like a bug's eye on the inside of the ear.
This one that Dragoon's got up now is the something that I believe it was Johnny Snowball showed me how to make. That's
a pretty cool one.
Yeah, I was doing a crew for my Crossfield way back when they first introduced that, and I was like, you know, I need an interesting alien-looking officer, and asked if anyone had any recommendations, and Johnny posted that.
A little bit of a background whine coming through someone.
Sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
I believe it's my fan on the computer going a little faster than usual.
You're generating quite a lot of heat.
She can't take any more, Captain. But yeah, the Lucari gloves really complement that well, and also the Discovery uniform.
Yeah. Oops.
Well, I think that's all we got for tonight.
Oh, hold on. One
Unless you
last
got one
thing,
more?
quick. Yeah, I'm not really done, but I'll just give you the picture.
There's really a lot you can do with the character creator. Just got to experiment with combination of parts and colors and.
And there's literally millions of combinations.
Oh yeah. Not everything's going to look good with each other, but.
Well, see, also the concept of looking good is relative to the purpose behind creating the character costume.
True.
So,
If you're going for something that looks really ugly.
I mean, if you want something that looks like it's made out of rock, I mean, that's one definition of good.
Yeah.
That doesn't apply to most costumes, but if it applies to yours.
So.
Or made out of wood, like your other one.
Something that Cal mentioned on 10 Forward Weekly when talking about the races for Discovery was Kelpians. And the fact apparently Saru is the only Kelpian in Starfleet, according to CBS.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because his race attempts to avoid antagonistic relationships with other species, and Saru is apparently the only one who's ever wanted to be part of Starfleet. Also, this one I just put in the Skype thing. I call it Bug Person because my goal here was to simulate the effect of having something like 20 eyes.
Pretty good.
With that pitted one.
Yeah.
I also put the basilisk tattoo to kind of sort of make it look like she has another pair of eyes on her cheekbones.
Yeah.
And this, it's not labeled as the Cardassian thing, but it looks kind of like the Cardassian forehead spoon right in the middle.
Yeah.
And of course, I make them all the same color. No, this isn't actually. It's like Argrathi or something like that.
Ah.
It looks kind of like the Cardassian spoon, but it's not rounded at the top.
Yeah. I use that one for Conclave. And
I use this one, though, because of the fact that it has that green spot in the middle when you color it green, that is. Yeah. And it almost looks like eyelids opening sideways.
A lot of strange stuff we can do. So, look forward to seeing what people come up with for Discovery alien captains. Not to mention that you can also do some, sort of the canon aliens, like you can do a Denobulan or a Xindi.
Oh yeah. And we'll see if they add any.
We've had Denobulan parts since launch, even though we don't have playable Denobulans.
Yep.
There's actually an NPC in the original Starfleet tutorial that was a Denobulan.
Yep.
In the current tutorial, isn't Captain Taggart one?
Yeah, Captain Taggart's still in there. Yeah, I actually cameoed him in my last mission.
But he's dead.
Well, he came back for a while. He's dead now again.
He got better and got worse again.
Yeah, he got better, he got worse, and yeah, it was I started playing with time travel a little bit more, so yeah. That was the shady business afoot.
So, before we go, we do have an announcement that there will be no show next week.
Yes.
I will be unavailable to do a live stream, so we'll be taking next weekend off.
Because you're going to a con for a different game. How dare you?
Well, it's not quite time for the con. The con will be the middle of a week.
Oh, it's not time for that yet?
No, this is just a normal trip right before the con. It's going to be a busy week.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, no show next week. I think the current plan is to do our next show as soon as the contest voting period ends to be able to talk about the winner. So we'll have to kind of play it a little bit by ear for that one. But in any case, Dragoon, if you want to put up our contact info.
We can be reached by email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We are also on Twitter at Foundry Roundtab. Drogan can be reached at Drogan1701. Duncan can be reached at Gorgonops_SSF. Mark can be reached at Markhawkman. And I, of course, can be reached at Greendragoon.
All right. Well, we will say goodnight.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good night.